Are you alive? Are you listening to a podcast right now? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we have a free form episode. We're going to be talking about whatever's going on in our lives. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? It's healthy to sometimes talk about what's going on.
It reminds people that other people are people too.
It's weird, right? Do you know
Hmm.
what's funny? Like, I never forget that the study that said, like, you know, we think of ourselves as we have this whole like internal life, dialogue and all, but we don't think of other people that way. And I know most people are like, yeah, I do. No, but that's not true. You see other people. No, this is the truth, right? You
No.
see other people as they're just like extras in your show. That's a good way to think about it. And I was telling this to my class because the class is a great example of that where everybody comes in, they sit down, they do their thing, but each person has their own life. But we don't ever think about that own life, which is why we so many times step on each other's toes and stuff. Yeah, it's just funny.
Hmm.
I forget where the hell we were going. I just mentioned that
Well, I
it's
mean, that's
interesting.
that's an important thing because everybody is a person. And like I was
Yeah,
just looking at it walking down the street the other day during rush hour, seeing everybody carrying their backpacks and briefcases and purses and everything like that. And it's like everybody's carrying their little life with them to go
yeah.
somewhere, to do something, to go home. And I was like, I wonder how much comfort that little backpack and all those little things in there gives people to do that.
It's their little like safety net,
Hmm.
their little like emergency bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. It does give us confidence and comfort. People panic when they lose their wallet and stuff. I
Yeah,
know,
because hmm
mostly because it's so hard to get everything back.
yeah.
They don't make it easy. It's like you
Yeah.
can't get that without your license. You don't have your license? Oh well.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think I wanted to do a freeform episode today because I've been struggling with some stuff. Uh, Sometimes wanting to punch people who are on their phones. Sometimes,
It happens.
oh my gosh, sometimes second guessing my own judgment. Like that's a difficult
Yeah.
one recently. Knowing because it's kind of like knowing the times when I should trust my judgment and knowing the times when I should second guess my judgment and not make a rash judgment.
That's a good one. Yeah. To actually sit back and think about it instead of just
Hmm.
going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I'll give you a bit more behind that
Okay.
second guessing my judgment. So
All right.
I've read a few books recently where they expound on the benefit of going to a counselor, like seeking therapeutic care, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I've been
Whatever.
going to
Okay.
one for probably like maybe 4 to 6 months at this point. And right now, the person frustrates the heck out of me. Like it's
Yeah.
there. I don't know. I don't know if this is part of the therapeutic process or if this is just me working through stuff, but it seems like they're intentionally pushing my buttons, and I'm doing everything I can not to just rage quit.
How many counselors did you try before you found this person?
Well, this is the first one this time. I've seen counselors before, and I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
had
yeah,
these. I
obviously.
never had these issues with counselors before. Like, I mean, not that sex means anything, but my counselors before were female. This is the first time it's a male counselor, and
Hey, it might though, because you never know. You might find it easier to talk to somebody of the opposite
but
sex. Who
but
the hell knows?
also
That is
also I
possible.
also I don't think I've ever gone to counseling for this long a period of time. And my goal,
Uh,
like before when I went to counseling, it was because like I had just been broken up with, or I was feeling shitty, or winter blue, like anything. And but it
yeah,
was usually like from my memory, of course, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was probably 3 to 6 months, and done.
yeah. Just dealing with something
Insurance stops paying
specific
for
issue.
it, and you're
Yeah,
and you're done. Now it's
I'm
like I
done.
actually wanted to deal with some stuff in my life, like stop having these recurring issues come up in my life, or at least be able to handle them better. And so, we've dealt with, I guess we've kind of gotten to the point where we've dealt with the surface issues, and now it's like the stuff underneath. And now the past couple of weeks, I just want to be like, you know what? That's it. We're freaking done. I can't believe you're a professional. Like, get the heck out of here.
Yeah. That's the hard stuff, though, is dealing with that stuff's the hard stuff. So it makes sense you're gonna like butt heads more.
Mhm.
It's tough because I think this is an issue I think a lot of people have. Like, at least personally, like when I try to find a counselor, I try to find somebody like will push back against my rationalizations, obviously, and not just like you don't want somebody that's just gonna like be a yes man, because then that's not really helpful, right? You want
Hmm.
to help, obviously. So you
Hmm.
need somebody to help and push back. But it's got to be done also in a way where you don't get angry about it either. It's got to be
Hmm.
like it shouldn't feel personal. So it could be that maybe you just, it might be that you need to find somebody else. That's always possible. Because I mean, I know plenty of people that like it takes them a while to find the right person,
Hmm.
especially when they're doing long term. Like, you have to switch a lot. It could be that like this
Yeah.
person might have been good for like the easy stuff in the beginning, maybe not good for this. Or maybe it's just that you're dealing with stuff that's deeper level and you don't want to. And
Hmm.
so it feels threatening. Or
Hmm.
he's just an asshole. Could also be the case,
Right. So that's
That's also
that's where I
totally
get
possible.
that's where I get to am I just am I second guessing? Should I trust my instincts and just go find somebody else? Should I second guess myself? Should I give it some time? Because I kind of see, I
I think,
mean, clearly there's a number of possible solutions. So one, there's rage quit, which is just nice and easy. The second is
yeah.
there's stick it out, which is, not great, but that's what I do. See, that's also a thing where I just keep my head down and power through. Like that's how I get
Yeah,
through a lot
but
of stuff
see,
in life. And so I
that's
don't
not,
think that's a
I mean,
great
that's
one
good.
either.
No, that's not a good habit. It's good to have sometimes. It is definitely beneficial sometimes. You got to do that, but like not always. And I think in this context, think of it like this, right? Like you're paying this person for a reason. If you're not getting the goal that you're seeking from it, granted, it takes work because you're going to counseling. So a lot of it's on you, obviously. But if you're not seeing that progress, they're not helping you.
Hmm.
So go see somebody else. I mean, I think that's the
That's a
easiest way
good
to look at
point.
counseling.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not saying like, and this is why I think like people, they shouldn't just support your BS either, obviously. But like,
Yeah.
if you don't feel like you're resolving things, you should
Hmm.
see somebody else or
Yeah.
address it with them and see if that changes it. That's
Hmm.
the other option too,
Yeah.
if you want to give them a chance.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of the feeling that I've been having recently is I feel like I'm putting in the work, but I'm like they're not helping me get to my goals. So
Have you addressed it with them? Have you asked them
I
about it?
I
Like,
talked
talk to them?
about it last week. I'm going to talk about it again this week
Be
because
like, look, dude, if
if
you want to keep your job,
well because it was like I talked about it last week when there was an incident the week before. And then
okay.
and I had been bringing it up for a while where it's like am I making any progress here? I don't feel like I'm making any progress, that type of thing. And then there was an incident that I brought up, and then right after the incident they just did something that was just like so grating that I was just like, yeah.
Then maybe you need
So
to find somebody else.
yeah,
It's
probably.
also tough. It's also hard too because this is the kind of stuff like, at least I mean my personal experience. Like when you're dealing with the deeper issues, they do take a while to work out too.
Hmm.
But you need somebody in your corner to do that, right?
Mm.
I'll be honest, yeah. I haven't been to counseling in a while since we started doing this, I stopped going because it
Hmm.
just felt like it wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do okay with counseling sometimes. Sometimes I don't because I'm like sometimes I just start make it a game and then it's not helpful for me. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I also, like I wanted. So there were three books, I think. There was Will Smith talked about in his book, where like he went to some counseling. It was very good. His biography or autobiography. There was also Finding Me, which was the Oprah's book list book, and then there was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. So all three of those books like talk about the benefits of
Everybody
counseling
poops.
and yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And and like and how long duration counseling can be very good because it can help you
Oh
deal
yeah.
with some of
Yeah.
your issues that have been around for a long time. And so I was like, it's interesting that we did an episode on like how to deal with disappointment because I've been dealing with disappointment recently where like I had very high expectations for this.
Yeah.
And initially, maybe not very high, but I had positive expectations for this.
A good
We'll
feeling
say
from the
that.
guy too,
We'll
and
say
all like
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
initially,
Yeah, yeah.
initially, and like I gave him the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. I was like,
Well,
we're just getting to know each other. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, whatever.
that's a hard person. You have to get to know each other. They're
Mm-hmm.
also a person. So
Yeah,
God knows what's going on in his life because it's not like counselors are like,
they're not
impervious to like,
robots.
yeah, I know, right? They're not AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I deal with a real person. Yes, I mean that's hard too, but like if it's ongoing and it's hard 'cause, like that long-term counseling can be really helpful. I know a lot of people that have benefited greatly from it, but it does take a long time. And like you do have to find the right person. I think that's the other
mm-hmm.
thing. Like
Yeah,
it is difficult. It's a tough one.
yeah, yeah. So who knows how
Here's
long?
another question.
Uh,
Let me ask you this, just because just throw it out there since we're talking about this stuff anyway. Are there some things we shouldn't deal with? Like, because like, okay, look, here's my thinking. I'll explain more so people understand, I guess. You know, counseling can be very helpful. It's good to get these things out and talk about it. It's good to talk with other people about it, right? Whatever, work through your problems. Are there some problems that we don't need to address, do you think? Like, is
Yeah.
some stuff just not necessary? Just let it go. Be done with
Yeah.
it. Move on.
Well, I think that yes, and also it depends. So one, I think that yes, there are some things you don't talk about. Like I don't talk about my sexual whatever with my parents. I just don't. You know, don't talk about that
Yeah,
because
not
I don't want to
necessary.
hear what they have to say about it. And you know, all of
Don't
that.
want their advice.
And like I've made up my mind about that a while ago because they pry. Like, and so I was just like, no, I'm not talking about this with you. So I think there are some things that, you just don't talk about. But then again, it's also really important not to keep secrets. Like
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere, some book, it was talking about how like, this was another Oprah's book. Okay. So
Knocking out the Oprah's book
yeah,
list.
I know,
Damn.
right? Dude, they're incredible books. I think I'm going to start like an Oprah's book club. But it was called Hello Beautiful. That was the name of the book. And they were talking about basically this guy, I'm not going to spoil the story, but this guy got really depressed and part of it was because he was keeping secrets, you know? And so like they're like you can't keep secrets. That's going to destroy you. Like any secrets that you have, write them down and then talk with someone you can trust about them. And it does make sense because you look at some of these like the 12-step programs, a lot of them have where you basically write down everything you've done, discuss it with God, with yourself and with a trusted party, another person. And
Well, it
so
makes sense too, especially like addiction, you get in a habit of lying. So it's like, yeah, you want to open that up. Yeah,
mhm.
I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's good to I think it's good to not have so like while there are some things that maybe you shouldn't address, like I won't address my whatever I do in sex with my parents because it's like not a conversation I want to have. I don't keep
Yeah.
secrets. So like the things that I do, they're not secrets from people who I can actually discuss those things with.
No, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it does. It feels like I think no, you're right. I think when you keep secrets, it feels like that weight on your shoulder. Like when you're avoiding things. I mean, because you're avoiding something, obviously, when you're doing
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like when you're avoiding paying bills or something or dealing with a big problem. Once you face it, the weight lifts off. It feels
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
I think something I don't know, I struggle with this. I think some things like are better just like some things I just don't want to talk about. Like I just rather would move forward. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's healthier for me just to not. Like you know what I mean? Like I know it's not that I think and I should be clear, it's not that I don't it's not denial or not admitting it. It's just that I don't feel any reason to talk about it,
It's kind of
I
like
guess.
making it a non-issue. This is another thing that I
Yeah.
was thinking about was like
Yes.
maybe I just
Yeah.
like maybe this is just a couple weeks that are off and I just need to set the little let go switch and then just move
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the problem though, because it's tough. Because like I said, like I would look at it like again, accounts are there is a goal, right? So it's goal oriented. You want help, obviously, with whatever the
Hmm.
hell you're dealing
Yeah.
with. So if you feel like you're not making progress, you've addressed it with the person, then maybe it's time to move on. But there's no harm in giving it some time and seeing,
Hmm.
because like they are the person. It might be that he had a couple bad days or whatever, and
Yeah.
you just happen to catch him, whatever.
I
Who
also
knows?
see a little bit of laziness on my part here. So like there's me not
Well,
wanting
we
to
want
have
somebody
to
else to
try.
fix our problems all the time,
Well, it's not so much that. It's like I don't want to have to go and find another counselor and deal with the whole like building up the beginning of it again. I have the same issue with my accountant who I can't every year tax season, I literally can't stand the guy. And then, 9 months go by and he's the guy I have on my phone, so I call him to do my taxes. And it's like,
Yeah,
and then
it's
I
easy.
instantly regret it.
Yeah.
And but it's like going through the work to find an accountant that I can
Yeah.
trust and use and whatever. And yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. It isn't.
Hmm.
Well, that's like, I don't think it's even, yeah, I think it's gotten harder in a lot of ways to find good people for things because there's
Hmm.
like so many options, and it's like, I don't know, it just makes it very difficult. And counselors are tough because you do. Like, I feel like the last time I went, I feel like I got really lucky. Like, I found somebody I really liked.
Hmm.
And, it's hard. It is hard.
Hmm.
And sometimes, even if you really like them, they might not
like
be
you.
good at all. Well, yeah, right. Well, that yeah, they might not like you, but they might not be good at all the issues you got too. You know, that's the other
Yeah.
problem because some of them are really. I think some of them are better at certain things and than others, and you know
Uh-huh.
that can be a challenge too
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
because they bring their own perspective, their own interpretations, their own biases to the table. Everybody does. You can't
Hmm.
help that.
Yeah.
So it's you know,
Yep. Yeah. And then I have my own interpretations of what a professional should be like, and that comes into
yeah,
yeah.
he might think you're a little bitch. You
Hmm.
know,
Probably. He probably does. And so then the other, oh my gosh, sometimes people with their phones just, man,
oh God, I
I
know.
like the I was sitting in an area that had like these signs up all over this place that said quiet please. And there's a dude right next to me, instead of typing into his phone, was talking into his phone everything. And I literally just wanted to like take his phone and throw it at the wall.
Yeah,
And then there was
he's like,
and
yo, I'm using dictation, bro.
dude,
Come on.
and then I was in the locker room the other day, and there's these signs up all over the place, no cell phones, like big pictures of phones with a big like no on it. And there's a dude just like typing away on his phone, like again talking into the phone, and I'm like, I just wanted to, I don't know, smack the guy upside the head. So like I have these issues that come up too, frustrations with dealing with people,
I think everybody has frustrations
particularly
dealing with
around
people, though.
phones.
Yeah, it is
So,
frustrating though. I find it sad too, actually, very sad because it's like you see just the barrier between everyone now, and it's like you know, it's funny like so many times where like I've been like because I don't usually I'm not on my phone very much at all to be honest. I don't scroll through stuff very often and like and so like if I'm in line or something like I'll talk to people a lot of times just because I'm bored and I want to kill time, especially if it's a long wait. This happened to the grocery store last time. I remember I just happened to say something to this woman that was behind me, older woman, and she was so happy to talk. And I was like, you know, it's sad. You know, I thought about it afterwards. I was like, that's sad. How happy she was to talk just because there was like 30, 40 people online. I was the only one having a conversation. And it wasn't about anything important. It was about like the weather or whatever, you know, whatever was going on. I forget what, I don't even remember it. But the point is, like, you know, it's sad because, like, most people are just like this the whole time and don't even
mhm.
register. You know, you're in
Yeah,
your own little bubble. And I
you
feel
made
like,
her day.
yeah, well, it's sad too because, like, that wall people put up, you know, this is why there's now counselors for how, or, you know, coaches for how to talk to people and stuff. Because, like, people, they're afraid to make that, like, to call, like, a delivery service. You know what I mean? Like, to make
Hmm.
phone calls and stuff. It's crazy because, like, they're so
Hmm.
used to their phone. If they can't do it without interacting with the person, they won't do it.
Hmm. Dude, I still remember the first text message I ever got. I was like, it confounded me because I was like, what the heck is this? What am I supposed to do with this?
I remember that. I remember when I got the first one, I was like, how do I respond to this? And then when I realized that you had to hit like, because that was back when you only had the numbers, you know, on the
Yeah, you
phone.
had
You had to
nine
hit like,
numbers that each number
yeah,
had
you had
like
to hit
four
like nine, like
letters.
10 times to get to like whatever. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, forget this. I'm gonna call him.
yeah,
This is way too hard. Like,
dude, so crazy.
yeah.
Times have changed. Ah, so what's going on in your life?
Well, so let me think. Recently, I guess, most recently, I've been so like I mentioned this before where I sway in my concentration is very focused, but I tend to sway between things and it just happens because I've been living with this forever, so it's not a big deal. But like there's all these things I want to start now, and like I want to pull a trigger on them, but at the same time, I can't tell if I'm holding myself back and not doing it just because I'm being lazy or like, dude, it's not the right time. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's never a right time for things. I know that, and I think
Hmm.
that's a bad way to think. Like, because you'll just never do anything. But then
Hmm.
there's other stuff like I'll give you an example. So like I have a summer session coming up, so I'll have classes. So it's gonna be kind of condensed and kind of, you know, not hard work, but like, you know, it's a lot. But I want to start some other projects. So like I'm trying to decide like, do I start them? Just start them now? Because like who cares? And just do it. Do I wait? But I'm afraid if I wait, then I won't do it. You know what I mean? That kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult because there's no clear-cut answer, right?
No, it
Yeah,
never is.
that stuff bothers the heck out of me. So
And
what?
like, you know what? Oh, well,
Hmm.
I was gonna say the other thing about it is like I never know if I'm like this will sound, I guess, dude, like doing enough. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Hmm.
like Like I feel like I
Ooh.
do a lot, right? But I never
Hmm.
know if I'm doing enough. How the
Hmm.
hell do you know if you're doing enough?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Let me give you a couple anecdotes. So, I was listening to Martha Beck's podcast, called Bewilderment, I think.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good by the way. I did
Yeah.
check it out. Yeah.
And so she was talking about how, uh, she she went to a thing with Byron Katie, who, you remember, she has the four questions like, is this true? Can I
Oh yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
know this is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
true? And so
I feel
she
like I
went to
read
a
about her
session with
recently.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we read about her in the book,
Oh, right, right.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Start from zero. Yeah.
exactly. Bingo. And so she went to this thing, and Byron Katie was having like a mastermind there with some people, and she asked the audience, she's like, what's the most pressing problem that you have right now that's like really eating on your consciousness? And there's this Hollywood film director who's probably one of the most decorated film directors in Hollywood, who has like tons of screenplays he's written, all these different things, probably the most prolific one out there. And he raises his hand and he says, I feel like I'm not getting enough done.
Yeah. Right.
and,
Like,
and Martha Beck, who in her own right is a prolific writer, she has written at least a handful of books, uh,
yeah.
and very good ones at that. She's like, if this guy feels like he hasn't gotten enough done, there is no hope for me. Like, I might as
Yeah.
well just give up now. And it's a good point. And actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I did just finish reading this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Very good book. Okay. So we live in a society that basically like breeds hurrying. Like, we always think
Yeah.
like we're not getting enough done. You remember before cell phones, there was this thing called boredom. You
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Doesn't
no, that's
exist.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this is it. Like, so I don't mind being bored, and like I always set time aside. So I try not to do stuff all day, you know. But
Hmm.
like at the same time, it's like, everybody suffers from it too. You don't want to wait too long either for stuff to happen. Like, because when you have your mind set on something, you just want it to be nailed. And I
Hmm.
think that you're right. I think that is in part due to technology and cell phones, and our expectations have changed. Like, you used to go to the brick and mortar stores because delivery took so long. Now with logistics and crap and with all these delivery companies and warehouses next door, it takes, less than 24 hours. So it's like our expectations have changed dramatically. And we see all these stories now of people going from broke to like billionaire at like 12, or whatever the hell age
Hmm.
they are, you know? And so it's like, yeah, I think that is a huge, huge issue. I recognize that. But at the same time, too, it's like I also don't want to wait, you know? Like, it's like
I see how hurry is a problem for everyone else, but I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait.
That makes a
It's
ton
like
of
I want
sense.
it
Yeah.
now. So it's like, yeah, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
conflict, you know?
I get you.
So,
Well, what would make one of the answers clear for you? When was the last time you had something where the answer was so clear that you were just like, boom, let's do it?
well, that's just it. I think the answer is clear on all these things that I'm thinking about. So it's not that I'm not gonna, this is the issue. It's not that I'm not gonna do them. Definitely gonna do all of them. It's just I don't know when to like do them. I think
Mm.
maybe I just need to reflect on it more and like write it down and think about like the order in which to do them is part
Well,
of it.
what's stopping you from doing it now that you're teaching the class?
Oh yeah, more just like trying to finish. I have to finish up a couple of things, and maybe that's also the problem. I need to get because I'm almost done the one freelance project I was working on. That's like pretty much done. I just need to finish it. So I think I just need to finish
Ah.
that first, get that out of the way, and then I can move on.
You remember
I
you
think that's
remember that
part.
thing that we
Actually, I
heard?
think that is what.
Yeah, you remember that thing that we heard where stress is usually caused by knowing what we need to do and not doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is my problem too, because I'm sure everybody does this, right? You like divert your attention in order to keep going without having to finish things. And it's like,
How can
because
I
it's
how
also
can I start these new projects without finishing up that old one that I need to finish?
here's the other problem with the old one. It's like it's fun and it's like done. The annoying part is the end.
Hmm.
And that's what I don't
Yeah,
feel like doing. So it's like, yeah.
usually.
And it's probably true. I'm probably just putting it off. Yeah,
Hmm,
that's true. There you
that
go.
could
I
be
just
it.
solved my problem.
Man,
Now I'm pretty positive that's
that's
it.
awesome. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, you can knock that
I'll
out,
be
and then
done.
you're free to do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, I'll be done it, and I can literally knock it out like tomorrow. I'm really,
Uh-huh.
realistically, this is how bad it is. This is how bad putting it off is. I could probably do it one day finish it, and then it'll take a couple days to finally, resolve
But that's
everything. But
pretty
that's okay.
awesome. and then
Yeah,
you can do
yeah,
whatever the heck you want.
yeah. And I gotta do
Hmm.
other stuff. This is
Hmm.
the other problem though, because then when you finish something, then you gotta start something else. So it's like every time you do finish something, it's like you gotta,
Hmm.
got stuff to
It's
do.
it's never ending. That's
Yeah.
it. I was sold this whole happily ever after dream when I was a kid, and so
I
far,
know. It's like, no.
totally not coming true. Has never been a happily ever. It's been a
You know what?
happily ever 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. Well, what kills me too is like I feel very lucky that I have a lot of interests, and I also feel like trapped by all these interests. Because like
Hmm.
there's so many things like I want to do, and like time, you can't do everything. You can only do some things. It's like I have all these ideas, and like I'm trying. You want to do them, and I know like you get faster doing things, yes, and all that, but like it's just hard to figure out. It's just very difficult sometimes to like work through all of them or find time to do them all well. You know. And that's where the balancing comes in because sometimes you have to do some things first and other things second so that you can like do them appropriately, and it's hard,
Hmm.
very hard. Life
Yeah,
is hard.
yeah. Oh, there's no denying that. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And recently I've been reading some books that are scaring the piss out of me. That's not great. But even the fantasy book that I was or sci-fi book that I was reading before I went to sleep last night, it ended. I was tired, so I was like, I'm just gonna finish this chapter and then I'll go to sleep. And so I got to the end of the chapter and it was like a cliffhanger, and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, even
I do it
that.
all the time reading where I stay up way too late because I want to like get to a good point to stop. But
Mhm.
most chapters don't end that way. So it's
No,
like, because
I
they want you
know.
to keep reading.
Yeah, you got to just stop in the middle of a chapter somewhere where you're
Yeah.
bored, and then that's the end
Sometimes
of it.
that's a good place. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I have a hard time with that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Crazy.
yeah, the holidays coming up soon, 4th of July. How about that?
Yeah.
By the time this episode airs, it'll already be over. People have
I
been
know.
done barbecues and
Crazy.
stuff like that. Can you believe the summer's almost over?
No. It just started.
I know. It's not almost over. But it will, but it always goes
It just
by.
happened.
It
I know.
always goes by before you know it.
Well, it's also the problem too. I think school like drilled it in our head too that summer starts like earlier than it really does. It's really spring, that
Hmm.
we think of as summer. So yeah,
Hmm.
like late
Yeah.
spring to
Hmm.
autumn. It is what it is. It's hard. It's hard being a human being. We're all trying to make it,
Certainly is.
and the world keeps changing around us. So it's like you feel like it's difficult.
I feel like this has got to be the hardest time ever to be alive. But then again, I'm
Oh
just
God.
being a drama queen.
It's funny that, but it's funny. I was remember this is a long time ago. I remember reading this, but like every generation thinks that it's the hardest time to be alive when they're alive, and they also think the world's going to end when they're alive. Did you know that? That's like
Mm,
more common to think that it's going to end now. And granted, now I feel like now it is like
I know.
probably closer to true than
They
ever.
weren't right, but this time it's gonna end.
This time it's definitely well, we keep seeing everything's burning and stuff. It's not a good sign, for like longevity. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is
Oh
funny.
my gosh. You watched what was it? Ancient Apocalypse. You told me about that
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, dude,
yeah,
because he
dude.
was like, yeah, the last time they had this society that didn't respect the earth, like dumping plastics into the ocean,
Boom.
boom, huge
Yeah.
ice age. I'm like, man, we are in
Well,
for it.
it's funny too. Like there was this NASA scientist, I think it was a NASA, two NASA scientists, but they did this study anyway where they were just asking broad questions like if like there was ever like an advanced society on Earth, how would you know if they were gone like thousands of years later, right? Because none of our stuff is going to stay, like our buildings and all that. It's all just going to turn back into basically rubble. You wouldn't notice. You
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to, plastic's not going to hang around forever. So
Hmm.
thousands of years, tens of thousands of years later, we find. And what they looked at was like one thing you do leave behind is spikes. Like when they look at like soils and stuff, they can tell like how the atmosphere was. And so they can look back and tell like 65 million years ago or whatever that like there was more greenhouse gases or whatever. The temperature was different, right? And so they said that's what and like we've changed the environment enough that like they should be able to tell that, which is kind of
Hmm.
impressive, right? That would be probably the thing that people would be able to find
And
tens of
plastic.
thousands of years later. Yeah, and plastic. That too.
And polyester, a bunch of Lululemon yoga
Yeah.
pants.
Yeah.
That.
And like those like little tight cars. Those will be the things that hang around.
I know. What do humans contribute to society? Plastic. Spiking
Plastic,
greenhouse
mostly
gas.
plastic.
Yeah. But you know what?
Uh,
It's nice to see how quickly things can bounce back. Because if you remember during COVID, when like people were locked in for whatever, all of a
oh
sudden
yeah.
all these animals were showing up in places they hadn't been seen forever, and like the
Yeah.
world was getting better. The skies were clear. I still remember like a few months into COVID, sitting outside and being like, "Holy cow! There's no planes going overhead," and it was like
Yeah,
the
it was
first
so
time in
quiet.
forever.
Dude, I know. I live right by like what, 6 airports, basically.
Yeah.
Dude, they're literally, no, literally all like you can hear planes all day,
Uh-huh.
every day. Because you get the little ones, because there's a bunch of little airports, you get the Cessnas, but you also get the jets. Because there's
Hmm.
like three international airports, like very close. So
Yeah.
they circle here. And dude, I remember I was outside one day when that happened. I was like, why is it so quiet? Like, and I realized it was the planes. You can't hear the planes anymore. It was weird.
Mm.
Yeah. It was nice. But they also, too, there was places where like people like there was a city in India I remember reading about where like they saw mountains for the first time in 30 years because the
Holy crap.
pollution dropped so much from not having cars and stuff and everything. I think that is nuts.
That's
Think
gotta
about
be
that.
crazy.
Yeah, there was people that were 29 years old that had never seen those mountains.
They're like, what's that
Like,
thing there over on the
yeah,
horizon?
like
Was that always there?
that's nuts. Yeah,
Dude, that's
it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So like that's something that, the daily stress of life, is life gonna be hard? Is it gonna get better? Is it gonna be worse? Is the world gonna end? Man.
Just gotta laugh
Mm.
about it too sometimes, I think, too. 'Cause things are okay too. You know, I waver back and forth from that because like I feel really good about so many things, and like I'm very positive most of the time, and I feel like it's helpful. You got to because like what else are you gonna do? And like, but then you just it's like it's life, right? So it just changes back
Hmm.
and forth. There's all this contradiction in life, and it just is what it is.
It's
Can't
the
fix
yeah,
everything.
the just for today thing. Like sometimes you just gotta take
Yeah,
one day at a time. Yeah.
like every day you gotta take. You can
Every
only
day.
take one
Every
day
day.
at
I
a
know.
time.
And I keep trying to live out my whole darn life all at once. And
I
really,
know.
it's just one day at a time is all I can do.
That's the trap though, right? Because your imagination and planning, that is the danger. Is like, and now it's been part of my problem too, because I've been like, I want to move and I want these things to happen. But like when I start to think it all out logically, that's when it gets overwhelming. And then you don't know what to do. But when you think about it daily, it's like you know what to do today. Just do
Yeah, it's
that
like I
today.
can
And
survive
then
today. That's all I
yeah,
have to
yeah.
do. But I keep
And I'll
thinking,
get
oh
there.
no, I got to do it all
Yeah,
today.
that's the problem. Yeah, that is it. It's mostly it.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well, that's a good
well, I
place
feel
to end.
better.
I know. So do I. Just got to survive today.
Good. All right. We'll
All right.
stop there then.
Well, yeah, Danny, it's been a pleasure. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure to like, share,
Always.
subscribe. Also, if you did like it, leave some nice ratings, maybe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to join us next week. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andy.